Let's start. So today we'll be discussing about, I'll continue our discussion about antiarrhythmics. The other day we did what is class 1 antiarrhythmics. Today we'll do the rest of them. Okay. So yesterday we discussed what is class 1A, in that discuss what is quinidine. Today we'll do what is class 1B. Right. The primary drug that will come in class 1B is lignocaine. Lignocaine or lidocaine. This is the same one that you are using as an anesthetic. Okay, this is primarily a sodium blocker, right? It will block sodium channels and shortens repolarization. Blocks sodium channel and shortens repolarization, because of which arrhythmias can be stabilized. Now, lignocaine specifically also suppresses electrical activity of your arrhythmogenic tissue. Okay, while normal tissue is not affected, because of this decreased or suppressed activity, your heart is able to stabilize. It will not undergo arrhythmia anymore. Normally, lignocaine is given orally. The T half is very, very small. You can, what do you call, you can also use it parenterally for that particular reason. If it is given orally, T half will be very small. So I'll just write it down. Suppresses electrical activity of arrhythmogenic tissue while normal tissue are unaffected, or at least they're not significantly affected. Other than that, if you give it orally, oral dosage has a very short T half. Because of this reason, you should use it orally. Use parenterally for longer T half. If you want to have the effect for a longer period of time, you need to give it parenterally. Now, as such, this can cause a few specific adverse effects, that is drowsiness, hypotension, blurred vision, confusion, and convulsion, sometimes even CNS toxicity. So the main problem will be CNS toxicity. It can cause drowsiness. The dose that is given for anesthetic dose will be slightly different, and the dose that is given for arrhythmia will be slightly different. Okay, it is not exactly the same dose that is given. Hypotension, it can cause blurred vision, and in some patients it will also cause convulsions as well as convulsions confusion. Okay, they will have confusion, they'll not be able to think clearly. Now, you use lignocaine specifically in ventricular arrhythmias rather than atrial arrhythmias. These are very, very good in case of ventricular arrhythmias, especially those caused due to acute myocardial infarction, or if you are performing open heart surgery at that point of time. If let's suppose the patient's heart is undergoing a ventricular arrhythmia or arrhythmia as such, in that condition, lignocaine is very, very good. Now, coming to the next class, class 1C drugs. Okay, the primary drugs that will come in this will be enkinide, flecainide, and propafenone. Okay, 3%. These are also sodium blockers, obviously, but what they do is these are the most potent sodium blockers amongst all the class 1 agents. So these are most potent sodium channel blockers amongst class 1 antiarrhythmics. Okay, they work very, very well, but they have associated side effects with that as well. There are like some serious problems with this. Now, obviously, because they are very strong sodium channel blockers, what they cause is they will markedly depress phase zero depolarization. So they will markedly depress phase zero depolarization. If phase zero depolarization is depressed, arrhythmia will not occur because the rate at which action potential is being transmitted will slow down. Right? If you remember yesterday, I told you the graph where we have phase one, phase two, phase zero, right? So if it is what do you call normal tissue, cardiac tissue, we have phase four that is going like this, then marked increase in potential causing phase zero depolarization. From there, there will be a slight dip that is phase one, and it will continue in a plateau that is phase two, and eventually it will get repolarized. All right, that is phase three. From here on out, it will again continue in phase four, and the whole process repeats again. What Enkeinite flecainide will do is they will depress this depolarization. If depolarization does not occur, or if it slows down, the whole process this whole process will slow down. Okay, if this is being stopped, this will not occur properly, this will not occur properly. Or let's suppose uh, phase zero depolarization is taking 1 millisecond. Okay, and you are giving Enkeinide or flecainide in such a condition. What will happen is instead of 1 millisecond, it will go down. Let's suppose it is taking 0.2 millisecond now, or it is taking 0.08 milliseconds, much more less than what is required. So the action potentials that are being transmitted, they will significantly slow down, giving your heart a chance to stabilize. Okay, when we are talking about arrhythmia, specifically tachyarrhythmia, the problem is that action potentials are moving very, very fast, and because of that, your heart is getting damaged. You are trying to stop that. So that this is one way of stopping that. Now, because of its adverse effects, Enkeinide and flecainide are not used as often. So specific adverse effects will be, it can cause cardiac arrest, they can cause sudden death because of cardiac arrest. Along with that, they can also cause dizziness, blurred vision, and nausea. Okay, these are kind of like the last sort of antiarrhythmics in class 1 that you give. Okay, normally you do not use Enkeinide and flecainide as often, but in special cases you can use them, especially in what you call severe ventricular arrhythmias. They are very good in case of use will be severe ventricular arrhythmias. Okay, you can use it in ventricular arrhythmias, you can use it to maintain sinus rhythm, especially in case of atrial fibrillation. If a patient is suffering from atrial fibrillation is rapid heartbeat with arrhythmia. Okay, it is kind of like tachyarrhythmia but not truly tachyarrhythmia. What will happen is the heart will get very, very poor blood supply because the heart is not taking enough time to contract properly, or to put it in another way, it is contracting very fast. Because of that, what happens is blood will not get pumped completely, or to put it in another way, very little amount of blood gets pumped. Okay, let's suppose abnormally in a normal person's heart there is atrial systole, then during that period of time ventricular diastole occurs, and followed by ventricular systole. This gives enough time for blood to enter your atria, then enter your ventricles, then get pumped out of your body, or pumped out of your heart, sorry. That is 0.8 seconds, one cardiac cycle. In arrhythmia, what is happening is that rhythm is being lost, and especially in case of AFib, where atrial fibrillation is occurring, what will happen is the heartbeat is very, very irregular, and it is very rapid. It is irregular and rapid, because of which what will happen, atria will not fill up properly. If atria are not filling up properly, ventricles cannot get filled up properly, and the total amount of cardiac output will sharply decrease, because of which the demand from your body will increase. Like, it's a very vicious cycle. We are having, let's suppose, AFib. Okay, your atria are not, let's suppose, instead of contracting properly, they are undergoing arrhythmic beats. Okay, they are going out of the rhythm. Now normal rhythm is lub dub lub dub, right? Systole diastole वैसा चलना चाहिए, but यहाँ पर it is going out of the rhythm. Now it can be lub dub or lub dub dub, or any different way. Basically it is out of rhythm. It can be either tachyarrhythmia or bradyarrhythmia. In either case, यहाँ पर क्या हो रहा, with this what they call arrhythmia, it is moving very, very fast. to an extent that it is going way beyond 100, 150 beats per minute. In such a condition, what will happen is, because blood is not able to flow out properly, the demand of your body is not met. Your body's demand of oxygen and blood will not be met, because very little amount of blood is leaving your heart. It is not filling up, hence it is not able to pump out enough amount. At the same time, your heart will not be able to work properly. See, if it is working very, very fast, heart is also a muscle. That means that it will need oxygen and blood. If it is moving very fast, or let's suppose you are normally sitting now, or you are lying down now, if you start running, the demand of oxygen in your body will sharply increase, right? The same way, the demand of oxygen in your heart muscle will increase, cardiac muscle, and your heart will not be able to supply enough amount of oxygen, because it is not pumping properly, because it is in arrhythmia. It will not pump enough amount of blood, so coronaries will also not have enough blood, creating a very, very vicious cycle. In that condition, you can give NK-NIDE, very, very good in such conditions. Okay, I hope you understood that cycle. Okay, now coming to class 2 drugs. So that was class 1 drugs. All class 1 drugs carry one major side effect, that they themselves are able to cause arrhythmias. So you have to keep that in mind. Class 2 drugs. Class 2 antiarrhythmics. The primary class 2 antiarrhythmic will be beta blockers. Okay, we've already gone through 3 different types of beta receptors: beta 1, beta 2, and beta 3. Beta 1 is present in your heart, beta 2 is present in your lungs, and beta 3 is present in your smooth muscle, especially in your GIT. Okay? Keep that in mind when I explain this. Now, अपन लोग, when we discussed about asthma, I told you about beta adrenergic agonists, receptors or drugs that will stimulate beta 1 receptor. Beta 1 receptor को जो उसकी activity increase करते, the drugs that will increase the activity of beta 1 receptor, something like salbutamol, terbutaline, salmeterol, all of those, they are beta 1 adrenergic agonists. Here we are giving beta blockers, we are giving antagonists. Okay, you can have if we talk about the classification of beta drugs or beta blockers, you have 3 different types of beta blockers. You can also put them in generations, or you'll understand in a bit. So we have first generation beta blockers. First generation beta blockers are also called non-selective beta blockers. Okay? Non-selective माने they will not select in between the type of beta receptor they are blocking, in the sense that, see, beta 1 is present in your heart, beta 2 is present in your lungs, okay, and beta 3 is present in your smooth muscle, okay, especially in your GIT, but smooth muscle all over. Now the function is that if you stimulate beta 2, lungs will vertical, to put it in another way, vasodilation will occur and breathing will become easier if you are stimulating beta 2 receptor. यहाँ पर non-selective blocker का मतलब है, it will affect beta 1, it will affect beta 2 and beta 3. Okay, it will not select in between any type of beta receptor. That is the problem. यहाँ पर if a patient has arrhythmia, there is a problem in the heart. So I would specifically want to only treat, or I would only want the drug to affect beta 1 rather than affecting beta 2 and beta 3. But first generation beta blockers are not capable of doing that. They are non-selective. Okay, so the non-selective ones will come propranolol. All of beta blockers will end with lols. Okay, sotalol, pindolol, and timolol. Then we have second generation. Second generation is the selective type, especially cardio selective type. Cardio selective का मतलब है they will specifically act on beta 1. Act on beta 1 receptor alone. Okay, they will not affect beta 2 and beta 3, because of which several side effects can be avoided. Now यहाँ पर propranolol, sotalol, pindolol, all of them, उन लोगों का problem क्या है? If you are non-selectively blocking other channels of beta receptor, if you are non-selectively blocking beta receptor in your lung and beta receptor present in your smooth muscle, it can cause specific effects. For example, if it is in your lungs, beta 2 agar receptors को stimulate करे, it will cause constriction of your bronchial smooth muscle that can precipitate asthma. If it is a patient, if it's an asthmatic patient, giving non-selective beta blockers can precipitate asthma, or it can cause difficulty in breathing. Okay, if you are understanding the point here, because it is non-selective, because it is affecting beta 2 as well, these ones, okay, propranolol, sotalol and all of them, they will have an effect on beta 2, and that is smooth muscle constriction. And other than that, on beta 3, they will block lipolysis and they will block glycogenolysis. If they are blocking glycolysis, lipolysis and glycogenolysis, if a patient has hypoglycemia, it will take longer for that patient to come back to normal, because whenever in your body glucose level go down, okay, insulin levels and glucose level goes down, your body is technically in a hypoglycemic state. Whenever your body is in hypoglycemia, in turn your liver will start causing lipolysis and it will start causing glycogenolysis, breakdown of glycogen and breakdown of lipids, so that glycemic index in your body or glycemic index in your blood is put back, or it is brought back to normal. ठीक है, यहाँ पर प्रॉब्लम है कि if you are giving beta blockers, specifically non-selective beta blockers in such a patient, let's suppose a patient has hyperglycemia or they have hypoglycemia. Okay, let's suppose a patient has hypoglycemia and you are giving propranolol or sotalol, any of the non-selective beta blockers, it will take longer for that patient to come back to normal glycemia, to come back to normal sugar levels in their blood. Okay, it will slow that down because it is blocking lipolysis and glycogenolysis. All right, those are specific effects. Now all of those effects can be avoided by giving a cardioselective beta blocker. Okay, that will only affect beta 1 receptor. It will not cause any effect on beta 2 and beta 3. Okay, I hope you guys are understanding. Oh dear. Right. So cardioselective beta blockers में आता आपका metoprolol, atenolol, we have acebutolol, then esmolol. Okay, you have more as well, itne bas hai. If you are trying to memorize them, I would suggest memorize propranolol, sotalol, metoprolol, atenolol, then third gen में आता. Third gen are, these have additional vasodilator effect property or vasodilator effect, meaning other than causing what do you call beta receptor stimulation, beta receptor blockage, sorry, they will also cause vasodilation. Now these will include labetalol, they will have carvedilol. Carvedilol is cardioselective as well. It will only act on beta 1 receptor present in your heart. And we have celiprolol. Okay, so these are the three classes of your beta blockers. All of them will work the same way. They will simply block your beta receptor either selectively or non-selectively. In this class, labetalol and carvedilol are important. Okay, now coming to pharmacological actions of beta blockers, why they are used in arrhythmia. Specific reason ये है कि on CVS, if you give a beta blocker, especially the beta blockers that are used in case of arrhythmias are propranolol, you can use atenolol, you can use metoprolol, I'm putting a star beside them, okay, and you can use esmolol. These are specific for arrhythmia. Now the reason is that if you give these beta blockers, it will immediately decrease heart rate. Okay, they will block beta 1 receptor. If it is cardioselective, then it will only block beta 1. If it is something like propranolol, it will block beta 2 and beta 3 as well. In any case, on your cardiovascular system, it will decrease heart rate, it will decrease force of contraction, and it will decrease overall cardiac output. What will happen because of this? If you are able to achieve this, your heart will have enough time to rest. or to put it in another way, your heart will have enough time to recover and fill up properly. Arrhythmia mein, especially tachyarrhythmia mein, one of the biggest problems is that your heart is not filling properly and it is beating irregularly. If you are able to slow it down, it will be very advantageous. These drugs are very helpful in that sense. Okay, BP will immediately fall. BP will decrease because of beta blockers. These are also used as antihypertensive drugs. Okay. Along with that, your atrioventricular conduction, AV conduction, is delayed. Okay, action potential becomes slower. Myocardial oxygen demand will decrease. Okay, myocardial oxygen demand अगर decrease हो गई, this specifically happens because the amount of work that is required from your heart will decrease. See, यहाँ पर problem क्या आ रहा? Heart is not able to meet the demands of your body because it is already in arrhythmia. It is not beating. It is beating very very fast, but it is not able to meet the demands because it is not filling up properly and it is not throwing blood out properly. Because of that, your body is becoming more and more starved of blood. Now your body will not think that the heart, there is some problem in heart. It will think that your heart is not beating fast enough or it is not beating with enough force. So your body will cause, it will stimulate your brain and it will cause catecholamines to be released. In any case, the reaction will be that there will be more pressure put on your heart. That is bad. Okay, because this is creating a very vicious cycle. The heart already has a problem because of which it is not able to pump out blood. Now if you put even more pressure on the heart, at one point what will happen is your heart muscle will start dying. It'll be unable to meet the demand and it'll start dying. That is when cardiac arrest occurs, or that is when myocardial infarction occurs. To avoid that, what you can do is decrease its workload. See, if your heart is working very very hard, even your heart is a muscle that needs blood, right? You have coronaries which is supplying blood to your heart muscles, to the walls of your heart. The amount of blood that is present in your coronaries, that will also decrease in case of tachyarrhythmias. As such, if you are able to give beta blockers and decrease heart rate, okay, if you're decreasing heart rate, the demand of your heart for oxygen, that will decrease. That this also correlates with decrease in cardiac work, the total amount of work that your heart is performing, and it will cause decrease in blood pressure. It will decrease force of contraction, it will decrease cardiac output, it will decrease blood pressure, overall letting your heart stabilize its condition. Okay, that is the advantage of giving beta blockers. Now, besides its effect on CVS that I already told you just now, on respiratory tract, I told you in case if you are giving some non-selective beta blocker like like propranolol or sotalol, it can cause an asthmatic attack or it can make it difficult to breathe. Other than that, on in your eye specifically, if you are giving beta blockers, it will decrease intraocular pressure, especially good in case of glaucoma. Okay. If someone has glaucoma, if they have increased aqueous humor being formed or increased intraocular pressure, a lot of pressure inside their eye, that time beta blockers are very very good because it will decrease aqueous humor secretion, IOP will decrease. And metabolically, I told you beta blockers will block lipolysis and glycogenolysis, because of which this happens because of sympathetic stimulation. The ultimate result will be that the patient will take longer for it will take longer for the patient to recover back from hypoglycemia. It's not exactly good, especially in case of diabetics. Let's suppose they are on oral hypoglycemic agents. Okay, you are giving OHPs. Let's suppose you give any OHP, glimepiride there is samjho. Okay, for example, if you give glimepiride orally, your blood pressure is going down from, let's suppose the patient has diabetes, matlab unka blood sugar is generally high. Let's suppose it is around 190. Okay, 190 to 200 or 210. Okay, you give glimepiride and this is coming down, and let's suppose because of excessive activity of glimepiride, this goes very down, this goes very low, and it is coming down all the way up to 60. This is low. Okay, this is hypoglycemic level. Yahan se what will happen is your body will start to recover slowly, and over time it will basically try to reach back to 210, but at one point of time it will come back to normal, your normal glycemia being 70 to 110, right? The problem is if you are giving insulin or if you are giving any other OHP along with propranolol or along with a beta blocker, it will take longer for this blood sugar to come up. Okay, meaning the patient will remain hypoglycemic for a longer period of time. That is one of the drug interactions of beta blockers. Never give non-selective beta blockers with insulin or oral hypoglycemic agents, because beta blockage will another thing it will do is, let's suppose there is the person is having hypoglycemia. When they are having diabetes, they have taken what do you call, some OHP, or let's suppose even in a normal patient, hypoglycemia is occurring. A little bit of hypoglycemia is fine, but if it is going on for a very long period of time, one very specific symptom starts showing. Okay, if there is a, let's suppose, 40-year-old man, unke andar they have not eaten throughout the day and hypoglycemia is occurring, and by the end of the day if they eat, it is fine. Okay, their glycemic level will come back to normal. Now let's suppose even after they eat, because of whatever reason, their glycemic levels are not coming back to normal. Okay, even after eating, the amount of glucose present in their blood is low, meaning prolonged hypoglycemia is occurring in such a patient. One specific symptom is seen in such patients, that is called tachycardia. Whenever a patient is hypoglycemic for a long period of time, they will present with tachycardia, because your body's demand of your body will basically start craving more amount of blood. Okay, your blood pressure will increase. I will not discuss the mechanism of why it happens, but basically hypoglycemia, prolonged hypoglycemia, is associated with tachycardia. Now the problem is, let's suppose you are giving a beta blocker and insulin. Okay, the patient is diabetic, they are taking insulin, and insulin is causing hypoglycemia, let's suppose. Generally diabetic drugs का, hypoglycemic drugs का एक problem क्या रहता है, they can cause hypoglycemia. ठीक है, anti hyperglycemic drugs can cause hypoglycemia. So if you're giving insulin and they are not monitoring the dose, or because of whatever reason it is causing hypoglycemia, at the same time, let's suppose you give beta blocker, what will happen is, if the patient is having profound hypoglycemia for a long period of time, they are having hypoglycemia, normally their body should have presented with tachycardia, but beta blocker will block this. So it will increase the chance of the patient having a bigger problem, or it will increase the chance of the patient having a severe what do you call, cardiac arrest or something like that. Okay, big problem occurs, because a major symptom of hypoglycemia is not being shown. Okay, they might fall down, they might go into coma, they might become unconscious, any of those will happen, because tachycardia is not occurring. Now normally if tachycardia occurs, the patient will immediately do something about it, go to a doctor or do something. Yahan par if they are taking beta blocker with it, this tachycardia is masked. Beta blocker will directly block tachycardia, because of which, even if the patient is in hypoglycemia, the doctor or the patient will not be able to discern whether or not they are having hypoglycemia until and unless they are testing. Okay, so that is a disadvantage of giving beta blocker and insulin. I hope you understood the concept here. See, the only point that you need to remember is that do not give beta blockers and oral hypoglycemic drugs with them. Okay, drugs that are used for diabetes, दोनों साथ में मिला के नहीं देना. It can cause a big problem. Other than that, if you give beta blockers with calcium channel blockers like verapamil and this thing, verapamil, diltiazem, any other calcium channel blocker, it will cause profound myocardial depression. You will have severe hypotension, bradyarrhythmia, bradycardia, all of that. Okay, the patient will have cold fingers. Okay. Other than that, specific ADRs of your beta blockers include, so ADRs of beta blockers will include bradycardia, and can cause cold extremities, because it is sharply decreasing blood pressure. Your fingers and your toes will become very cold, especially your palms and your feet, they will become cold. It can cause an acute asthmatic attack, especially non-selective ones. It can cause insomnia. Insomnia is one common problem in all beta blockers, and rarely it will cause hallucinations. Okay, these are common ones. If you are abruptly stopping, see, one thing you need to remember about beta blockers is that if you are giving beta blockers to a patient, taper it out. मतलब एक साथ बंद नहीं कर देना out of nowhere. Let's suppose the patient is being given beta blocker, a course of beta blocker for 2 months. Okay, twice a day. Okay, for 2 months. Let's suppose they are given atenolol 2 times a day they are taking. After 2 months, do not stop the drug as such. ठीक है, abruptly stop नहीं करना drug को. What you need to do is you need to taper the dose. मतलब let's suppose they were giving 20 mg of the drug, ठीक है, or 10 mg, 20 mg लो. 20 mg 2 times, that is 40 mg into 2 is 40 mg per day, right? Now there are a few ways through which you can taper the drug. That is, let's suppose I am giving one dose of 20 mg, or another way is I am giving two doses of 10 mg. Morning and evening I am giving 10 mg. This has essentially decreased the dose by half. Then this will go on for, let's suppose, 2 weeks. Then again I will decrease it to one tablet of 10 mg per day. This again for 2 weeks. Okay. Eventually I'll give a 5 mg tablet for a few days and then I will stop, not abruptly stop. If you abruptly stop giving beta blocker, it can cause rebound hypertension. There'll be a hypertensive crisis, it can cause angina, and there will be a big problem. The patient will go into cardiovascular emergency and all of that. So in such cases, beta blockers, you have to be very careful. Okay. So the uses of beta blockers, where all you can use is, obviously you can use them in arrhythmias, very, very good in case of tachyarrhythmias. You can use them in hypertension, you can use them in angina, myocardial infarction, heart attack, or you can use them in obstructive cardiomyopathy. Okay. Sometimes beta blockers are also used unconventionally, in the sense that you can use it in cirrhosis. Why? Cirrhosis में एक problem क्या होता, portal venous pressure increase हो जाता. Because of extensive damage, the amount portal hypertension जो बोलते हैं, that occurs. To treat that, you can use beta blockers. You can also use it in glaucoma. As I told you, it decreases intraocular pressure. You can use it in alcohol withdrawal, and you can use it in anxiety. So these are all the uses of your beta blockers, and that completes our beta blockers. Tomorrow we'll start with class 3 agents. Okay, so stop here for now. I hope you understood. If you have any doubts, please feel free to ask and put it in the chat as well. Okay.